Hello and welcome to Girlfriends. I'm Danielle Bean. I'm a wife and a mom, and I'm on a mission to help you know your worth as a woman so you can find peace, balance, and joy in family living. This week, our special guest is Anne Marie Bollman, who is going to be talking about a new film, What is Love? Can't wait to share this special conversation with you. Let's get started. Hey, girlfriend, how are you? Thank you so much for being here and joining me for this newest episode of the Girlfriends podcast. Thrilled that you are able to be a part of today's show. Before we dive in with our special guest and our interview content, I want to remind you about the Advent Retreat, which is coming up from Good Catholic. You can go over to goodcatholic.com/Advent to learn more about this special Advent event. So in this retreat, this is going to be hosted and presented by Father Jeffrey Kirby, who you know him from the Morning Offering podcast. He's been a guest here on the show in the past. Another one of our presenters is Tish Oxenrider, who is an award-winning author, wife, mom. She's written beautifully about the seasons of Lent and Advent, and she's going to be sharing some spiritual insights for you during this holy season. So the event is taking place virtually, so you can join us. No excuses. You can join us from wherever you are in the world on Saturday, December 2nd from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. If you can't make it live, we'll be sad to miss you, but don't let that stop you because you can always participate with the recording after the fact. So this special Advent presentation is going to include presentations by the participants, but then time for live Q&A. That's when you can really ask questions about the content, when you can really put these questions about how you're spending Advent, or maybe some particular spiritual goal that you want to ask maybe Father Jeffrey Kirby about. Bring that to this event because we have time for that live interaction. We love for these events at Good Catholic to not just be about us speaking to you. We would love for them to be a conversation. And that's really what we're able to do inside of these live events. So Father Jeffrey Kirby is going to be the host and the main presenter in this Advent retreat. And you're going to have time for that in the 2 hours that this virtual event is taking place. So there's going to be presentations and there's going to be that time for live Q&A, but then time to be praying together because that's what this is all about, right? We are a faith-based, prayer-based community at Good Catholic, and we want to invite you to be a part of that as well. So this Advent retreat is a unique opportunity to do that. You know what? We all need to do something extra. We need to find our things, right? This time of year, we're looking ahead to Advent and thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do maybe for a little bit of spiritual reading each day? Really nice. Some bonus content that you get when you sign up for the Advent retreat over at Good Catholic is you get a free downloadable reflection guide, which is going to give you content for every day of Advent leading up right up until Christmas. So an opportunity to go a little deeper with your Catholic faith and grow closer to Jesus as we're preparing our hearts and minds for the coming of Jesus this Christmas season. So Advent is a short time. It's actually an extra short time this year because that last week of Advent, I think, is one day. One day we light the 4 candles this year. So you got to make your plans ahead of time and make sure that the Good Catholic Advent Retreat is part of your plan this year. Go over to goodcatholic.com/Advent, get all the information and register so you won't miss this special event. All right. Today's special guest is Anne Marie Bollman, who is a young woman at Notre Dame. And she had the opportunity to be part of this new film, a documentary called What is Love? And I love that this project even exists, right? Like they thought to take this on over at Paradisus Dei. And they created this film to look at that question and look at the human experience of love. And sometimes in the world today, there's this temptation to be a little bit jaded about love and to roll our eyes a little bit about love. And I love what Anne Marie shares because, first of all, she's got this young, fresh perspective as a young woman in the church today, but she helps us to see things from her perspective while also sharing a little bit about this innovative new film that you're definitely going to want to check out. So here's my conversation with Anne Marie. I am thrilled to have Anne Marie Bollman joining us here today on Girlfriends. Anne Marie is a senior at the University of Notre Dame, studying the program of liberal studies and theology with a minor in history. On campus, she is a student worker for the Nicola Center for Ethics and Culture and is deeply involved in Right to Life, coordinating its annual Adopt a Mom fundraiser. Previously, she has worked for Paradisus Dei on the What is Love project, and is thrilled to see the impact that it will have on young people's lives. After studying abroad in France and volunteering at Lourdes, Anne Marie is now putting her love of the French language and culture to use in a thesis exploring Mary's Immaculate Conception as a response to Enlightenment thought. Anne Marie is also proud to call Texas her home, and I'm thrilled to have you joining us right here today on Girlfriends. Welcome, Anne Marie.
Thank you, Danielle. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, excited to talk with you, especially about this film. So this is what our conversation is going to be focused on here. This documentary film, which is newly being released, called What is Love? Can you tell us a little bit about this documentary?
Sure. I think that the question of love is something really pressing today, and the hearts and minds of everyone, especially of young people.
Sure.
And I really love how this documentary brings together kind of all the forces at our disposal to talk about love. So it uses faith, science, real life stories, literature to really dive into that question of what is love and to give concrete answers.
Okay. So how did you come to be involved in it, and what was your involvement in the making of this film?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's been kind of around the home. My dad, Steve Bollman, is the one who's producing this documentary. So kind of initially just dinner conversations.
Sure.
And then a couple of summers ago, I did an internship with the office, and I actually got to go on set as they were filming it to be a script supervisor. And this was back during COVID, so crazy restrictions. It's been long in coming, so I'm really excited to see it here. And I think because I was able to be on set and see it in the process of coming out, I've seen all the hard work that's gone into it, and all the thought about how are we going to really give the best answer possible and provide a message of hope.
Okay, so this message of hope, I certainly feel the need for that in today's world. Is the movie specifically focused on the idea of romantic love in the world today with young people, or what kind of angle is it taking?
Yeah, it of course touches romantic love, and that's a big component of it, but it's not limited to that at all. So it talks about the love of a mother for her child, especially St. Gianna Molla. It shares her story of sacrifice for her child. It shares the love of friendship. It's really much broader than romantic love.
Okay. So lots of those different perspectives are included there, right? So yeah, you mentioned St. Gianna Molla, and that beautiful story of her sacrificial love for her child is part of what is shared in the film. Are there other female saints that you particularly are attracted to, or that you try to emulate in your life as a young woman today?
Yeah, well, I love St. Gianna Molla. And hers is a very powerful story about the love of a mother for her child. But yeah, of course, there's lots of female saints who I love. And actually, my roommate and I sometimes pray novenas together to different female saints for specific intentions, also just out of devotion to the saints. So Saint Monica is a big one, also on her role of hope in perseverance, and always hoping that God is going to answer her. She knows that he hears her, but it takes a long time before Augustine converts. And Saint Therese is also a huge one. So the same roommate and some of our friends, we always throw a little Saint Therese party every year for our friends, just to. Yeah.
Do you do it on her feast day, or when do you do that?
Yeah, October 1st every year.
I love it. Oh, that's so great. It sounds like you have a beautiful community of Catholic friendship there on campus at Notre Dame. Is that right?
Yes, I have been extremely blessed. It's a very strong Catholic community. I've found wonderful friends with whom I can really walk in faith.
I love that. Can you share just a little bit more about that? Because I know, especially being a mom of college age kids myself, this is something that's truly important to us. And sometimes, like the big headlines, so perhaps in the past that we've seen about Notre Dame, people think, oh, it's losing its Catholic identity. But I've known many young people go through there and really thrive in their Catholic faith. So could you speak to that a little bit? Like, what are the opportunities for you to grow in your Catholic faith there on campus at Notre Dame?
Yeah, I think the Catholic community and faith is really strong here. There are challenges and struggles, but my own faith has really flourished here,
Mm-hmm.
and especially through the clubs and centers that one can get involved with. So, and also the dorm life is really big. So there's over 160 masses, I think, per week, counting all of the dorm chapels and the basilica. So the sacraments are very present. And then getting involved with Right to Life, it's specifically a Catholic club.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Nicola Center where I work has a Soren Fellows program where I've met some of my closest friends.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. I love that. Well, so focusing on what this movie is all about, what is love? Like, is there love in the world today, or the different forms of it? You probably experienced that in a unique way as a young woman on a college campus today. What would you say about the dating culture among people your age?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really interesting. I think that's going to depend partially on, where you are and your friends
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. But there's kind of two different trends, I would say. One is we're gonna date and ring by spring and get married like right away. And then there's also the other extreme of just the hookup culture,
Sure.
and not dating with purpose. Um, and actually, I think one of my favorite classes that I've taken here at Notre Dame was through the theology department, and it's called Nuptial Mystery. And so it focuses on love and marriage, and it's a huge 260 plus person class that is full every
Wow.
fall that it's taught. So it's a question that is most certainly on the minds of young people today. We want to find out, okay, what is love? It's difficult, but it's here and we want
Mm-hmm.
it. And what is it?
Yeah, that's beautiful. So it's sounding like you're not quite jaded, right? I think we see that in a lot of young people today, maybe jaded about the concept of marriage. Do you bump into that among your classmates or among your peer group there?
Um, Among my closest friends, no. I
Hmm.
I remember a conversation that I had last year with a different roommate. There were four of us together, um, and at the time, neither of the two of us were dating, and one other roommate was. And so we were all talking together, and the one roommate and I were saying, love is such a headache, but I want it really badly. Like I'm looking for it. So yeah, I think there's just kind of a tension, or just the real struggle that it is, and the desire that's there. But I would say that the desire is still really present,
Right.
for as much as there's um, challenges and some disillusionment with the way that it um, kind of plays out in real life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I can see that. And I see that among my kids who are about your age as well, that human beings are the same, right? Throughout time, right?
Yeah.
We want to love, and we want to receive love. It's what God made us to do. So that's just very much a core part of the human experience. So that's not going anywhere, but the different ways that plays out in someone's lifetime can vary. And that's really what this film, What is Love, is focusing on, is
Yeah.
showing us the ways that
that love is still a basic human need, and the basic way that we connect with one another. We're built for love, which we ultimately receive from our Creator. But let's talk a little bit about the culture, because you mentioned like dating culture, and it's been my experience that unfortunately there's a real lack of that. Like, do you find that that's true, or are there little pockets where it still happens? Like, do guys still ask girls out? How does that go?
Oh, I find that there's very much a lack of that.
Okay.
From my own
What do you
experience.
think behind that? Is it just a culture that doesn't expect that as a norm anymore?
I don't know. I think there's just a lot of confusion about what's expected of guys and girls, and kind of just like, what are the cultural norms? How do we interact with one another? And so, yeah, I think there's just a very much a fear of vulnerability, because, to ask someone out, you're putting yourself out there, and you could be
Very
rejected.
much so.
And so, yeah, no, that's definitely something I see. And back to that nuptial mystery class that I took, one of the reasons it's so famous is because the professor offers as an extra credit assignment to ask someone out on a date.
Okay.
And everyone
Guys and girls,
loves
right?
that. Yeah,
Okay.
everyone. Okay, you can ask someone out on a date, or if you're already dating, he has like a set of questions that you can talk about. But it's people, I think, want to date but don't really know how.
Yeah, and so what was your experience doing that? Were you uncomfortable with the concept? How did that go?
Oh no, I was thrilled that it was there. Actually, I was dating someone at the time, so we
Oh,
went
okay,
through
that
the
made it
list
easier.
of questions. Yeah, made it easy.
Okay. I like that. That's reminding me of another film project that I saw years ago, The Dating Project, which I think it was filmed on BC campus, where they were looking at this culture of dating, or lack thereof, on college campuses, and really just encouraging young people to go on dates. Like, this is how we're, for centuries how this worked, and there's a real purpose behind it. So I love that you're on campus there at Notre Dame. That's also being encouraged, at least inside of that classroom experience. Yeah, so that's great. And then, so, part of what I'm thinking about as you were kind of describing this, like, drive that people still have for love and seeking love and wanting to know, like, what's God's plan for my life. I was reminded of a time several years ago now, when I worked with a young woman who was kind of dating on and off and having, lack of success in her relationships. And then she wound up discerning a call to religious life. And I remember her at the time telling me, and it's always stuck with me. She said, what? I want to say yes to something. And I thought that was so powerful, because that is what we're driven to do, right? I want to say yes. I want to say yes to marriage, or to a religious vocation. I want to give myself for service to another, out of love for another. And that's just so built in. And yet I don't think we always verbalize it in quite that way. Do you find that young people, that you're surrounded by there on campus, and in your daily life and friendships, also have that similar drive? Like, do they still want to say yes to something, or has that been beat out of them?
I think it's very much there, but perhaps a little bit covered over. We talk a lot about, especially from adults, but even among people my age, the lack of commitment, that young people have trouble committing to something. But I think that with a little bit of digging, that's there, because at the end of the day, we are looking for that real human relationship. And of course, relationship with God as well, who is love. And so I think, because there's just wounds from this culture that we live in, and from personal experiences. So it's kind of digging down to that deeper desire, and to realizing that it can be fulfilled, as the documentary really tries to emphasize love is possible. So I think it's with that reawakening of hope and faith in commitment, in love, that young people will take those steps again. But it's really there. I would say that for sure, 100%. It's just a matter of finding and pursuing it.
Mm-hmm. Right. So you mentioned commitment and this fear of commitment, this lack of commitment. And you're so right that I think it comes from a woundedness. Like, people are scared or they've seen their parents get divorced. And so it doesn't necessarily feel like a viable option for young people today. But how about among your peer group, among you and your girlfriends? Is marriage something that you talk about? Is it a goal that you kind of have understood among you, or are you somewhere else?
Yeah, I think absolutely it is. I mean, I have one really good friend who has been in a serious relationship for, I guess, like 2+ years now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, kind of the other friends are talking about, wondering, all right, it's senior year, what's going to happen next? And then, I mean, for the rest of us, though, it's very much on the forefront of our minds. And it's something that's talked about and campus culture as well, and professors sometimes have some comment about it, but I think there's also kind of two sides. One is like, yeah, you should think about getting married, settling down, finding that commitment. And then there's another side of don't hurry into things, go explore the world a bit, fill out kind of this list of things that you want to do before you get married, have a family that can come later. So yeah, I mean, I guess I see two tendencies.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So in the movie, What is Love? You appear in the added value content at the end of the movie. So you're kind of representative of many young women today in the Catholic Church, kind of answering this question, what is love? What would you say to your peers about what the church's answer is to the big question of what is love?
There's so many different ways that can be taken. But I go, well, first, of course, to the example of Christ, who is love to the point of dying for us. And I remember reading in theology class on the early church from St. Ignatius of Antioch. There he talks about Christ as my lover in the Greek eros, not just agape. We always think of God as charity and that type of love, but also that he is eros, he is desire. My desire has been crucified. So that within this relationship with Christ, there is a fulfillment of those longings, not just God up there and I'm here, but this deepest longing that we have. And then also in the lives of the saints, there's so many different examples that show us that love isn't only one thing. It's not only going to a convent, but it's also in family life, like St. Gianna Molla. It can be lived out, should be lived out as a young person, like St. Therese or Blessed Chiara Luce, who died when she was 17. So that I think from the church's rich history and tradition, we see so many examples of love that teach us that we can make that our own as well.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And I love that this film is not afraid to ask those hard questions and make this content relevant for today's younger audiences, especially. What is your biggest hope that young people will take away from this film?
I think my biggest hope is that it will reawaken hope for love. I was reading over the summer a long poem by the French poet Charles Péguy called The Porch of the Second Mystery of the Virtue of Hope. Super long title. But he talks about hope, personifies the virtue of hope, and talks about her as a little girl between her two older sisters, Faith and Charity. But it's hope that runs before them and kind of paves the way. And So that's I've thought about that in connection with the documentary
Mm-hmm.
of What is Love as well, that, it gives a lot of different answers to the question, what is love? Love is sacrificial, love is communion, love is desire. It gives 7 answers to that. But at the end, I guess kind of a spoiler in a sense, so it's not really a spoiler, it's that love is possible. And so
Right.
I think just that I would hope that it reawakens hope, and inflames that fire of love that is within all of us.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, where can people go to find out more about this film? So this will probably come out after the big theatrical release, but where can people find out more about how they can access this film and learn more about it?
Sure. So I would encourage anyone who's interested to check out the film website, whatislove.org, where you can find the trailer. You can find information about showings or request a showing, and find out all more about What is Love.
Excellent. Well, we will have that linked up in the show notes, as well as the Fathom Events website. There you can get more information about buying tickets and where and how and when this film is being released, and also a link to the trailer, so you can check that out as well. Our guest today has been Anne Marie Bollman for the new documentary, What is Love? Anne Marie, thank you so much for coming on Girlfriends and for the good work you're doing there at Notre Dame.
Thanks so much. Have a blessed day.
All right, we've got more of the show coming up for you, but first we're going to take a quick break. I'm Danielle Bean, and you're listening to the Girlfriends Podcast.
How could we possibly live in a world where the vast majority of reality is not seen? You and I live in a world that's much larger than our senses can perceive. Imagine being blind, deaf, unable to speak or to feel, and yet live in the world that we actually know. This is a bit similar to the world we actually live in. Only a small part of reality is material. Scripture gives us a glimpse into an entirely other world, a great cloud of witnesses in which we are enveloped. Angels are spoken of so often in the sacred scripture, perhaps more numerous than every human person that has ever existed, and they're all around. What do they do? How can we know them? What is their influence upon us? Where do they act? How do they move? How do they think? How do they communicate? Do they enlighten us? Do they hinder us? We will explore for the next 21 days, if you join us, this vast world, with the hope that you will be equipped to navigate in it, to enjoy it, and ultimately to know Him by virtue of participating in it. Join us as we explore the world of the angels and the supernatural.
All right, welcome back. Now we're at the point in the show where I like to share a little bit of listener feedback, sometimes a question. If you have a question you want me to take up on the podcast, here's your chance. Send it to me, Danielle at daniellebean.com. I would love to hear from you. I'm also Danielle Bean on all forms of social media, so you can reach out to me there or leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube, or you can leave a comment over at goodcatholic.com. We would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what your questions are, what your feedback is on this episode or other ones that we share here at Girlfriends. So this week I heard from Anne Margaret, and Anne Margaret said, "Hi, Danielle. I'm new to your podcast and am loving listening. In one of your recent podcasts, you mentioned calling on our guardian angels." And then she puts in all caps, "I can't stop thinking about this. Can you recommend any books that are on the subject of guardian angels? I'm so drawn, pulled almost to this topic, and I want to learn more. Thank you. Looking forward to hearing from you, Anne Margaret." Thank you so much for that email and for your question, Anne Margaret. There is a book from Tan that I recommend that's actually a very simple book. And I think it's called Guardian Angels Are Heavenly Companions. I've got the link here. I will put the link in the show notes over at goodcatholic.com. Side note for everyone listening, anytime you need a link from an episode of Girlfriends, go over to goodcatholic.com so you can get all the information for every episode of Girlfriends is over there, along with links for our guests and the books they're writing and the films that they're a part of and their projects and other opportunities for you to engage further with the guests we have here, always in the show notes over at goodcatholic.com. So I'm going to put this book in there, Guardian Angels Are Heavenly Companions, which is available from Tan. But the other thing I want to recommend is our Good Catholic series, which is Angels in the Supernatural. And we have this special opportunity over at goodcatholic.com with something we're calling the Angelic Battle Pack. Okay, this is intriguing, right? So we started promoting this last month. And what it is it's our digital series, which is presented by Father Kauth, who is a remarkable priest and just so knowledgeable, but also engaging in the way that he shares about the faith. And he's helping us to learn more about this whole other world that maybe we don't think about enough, right? The supernatural. And so he's talking about angels and the supernatural, and you can learn more about your guardian angel and all the angels through this unique series, which is only available through Good Catholic. So you can go over to goodcatholic.com and look for that series. You can just click on the series tab and you will find the angels and supernatural. But if you click on live events, you also will see that angelic battle pack. I love that we're calling it that. And the reason why it's Angelic Battle Pack is because it's more than just a series. You can get the Angels and Supernatural series, but along with it, you're going to get a St. Michael chaplet. So that as you're learning about the angels, you're going to be encouraged to grow in relationship with the angels and to be praying to the angels through this unique chaplet, which maybe you haven't heard of. Maybe you've heard of the Rosary, but you haven't heard of the St. Michael chaplet. It's a great opportunity to learn it. Part of the series kind of walks you through learning that chaplet. And then bonus that you get when you sign up with the Angelic Battle Pack, you get not only the Angels in the Supernatural series, but you also will get shipped to your home a St. Michael chaplet. It's like a physical chaplet that you use for praying that special prayer, that special devotion to St. Michael. So all of those options, I will have them all outlined for you and shared over in the show notes over at goodcatholic.com. So definitely check that out, Anne Margaret. And thank you so much for your question. Before we wrap up, I just want to remind you about the Advent Retreat. Go over to goodcatholic.com/Advent for this year's virtual Advent Retreat, which is going to be taking place on Saturday, December 2nd from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We would love to have you join us because you know what? You're an important part of our community. Part of what we're doing at Good Catholic is growing Catholic community in all the unique and innovative ways that we're able to do that in the world today. So we can do it through these virtual live events. We can do it through virtual retreats. We can do it through the various ways that we're able to communicate, whether it's through podcasts or videos or online community. We would love for you to be a part of it. So definitely this Advent Retreat is a great way to, first of all, prepare yourself for Advent. The day before Advent begins, you're going to be going into Advent, preparing your heart to get ready for Jesus and his arrival at Christmas time. But this is a great way to have a plan in place. Make sure you have that plan in place for Advent this year. So again, go over to goodcatholic.com/Advent to get all the information and be sure that you're registered for this special event. But in the meantime, I'm just grateful you've been here. Thank you so much for being a part of the Girlfriends podcast. I love that we're able to share here. I love the important topics we're able to take up here. And I love the opportunity to pray with and for you. I've shared before on the podcast that I always pray for the people who are going to be listening to my podcast. So if you're listening today, wherever in the world you are, you have been prayed for. And I want to thank you for being a part of today's show. And until next time, I hope you enjoy your day and God bless your week.